welcome everyone to my talk. I will be presenting on the search is over, how to quickly build a searchable list filter using SwiftUI. And my name is Nguyen. Oh, let's see, why is this? Excuse me, why is there a hiccup already? I cannot. This is strange. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, now I gotta do screen share again. Sorry, I could not press return. Where am I? Apologies for that. Let me try to share my screen again. Okay. Okay. Let's try this again. Okay, that's much better. All right, well, I'll dive right in. I'll talk about the problem I'm trying to solve. So the problem I'm trying to solve is I want to build a list of ice cream flavors, and I want to be able to filter that list by, say, display only the ones that have fruit, or display only the ones that have fruit and chocolate, or display only the ice cream flavors that have fruit, chocolate, and coffee. And then when you uncheck them, that displays all the ice cream flavors. So that's the problem I'm trying to solve, is how to build a searchable list filter. And how do we do this quickly, easily, and with minimum code? And can you just imagine doing this in UIKit? Now, there's a few problems with UIKit. To paraphrase a popular song, it leads to more code, more problems. So how do you build a list without so much code? Do we want to use UI table view? Because think that that requires a lot of code. And don't forget delegates like UI table view delegate, UI table view source, etc. And then the other problem you have is, how do you update the UI easily when data changes? So as you're selecting and deselecting filters and that changes the list that returns, how do you do that quickly without, usually in UIKit, that requires completion handlers or delegates. And as you know, that can lead to a lot of spaghetti code. So since you're coming to my talk, you know that the solution to this is to use SwiftUI. So today I demoed to you what problem I'm trying to solve. I'm going to explain how SwiftUI makes solving my problem easier. And I'll do that by going through a code overview. And if you stick around until near the end of my talk, there's going to be a bonus demo, so you don't want to leave early. And I will go over some key highlights in my SwiftUI solution and answer any questions you might have. So this is what I'm going to go over in my code overview. So let's dive right into the code. Okay, so right away you can see that building this thing in SwiftUI, there's not a whole lot of code, right? So you can see the huge difference between this and trying to build the same thing in UIKit. So you'll want to take this filtered list results. Remember this is going to be important later, and display a list of those ice cream flavors. And then the filters themselves are built using this filter view, which is a group of checkboxes, which is this. And again, there's a bonus at the end, so I'm not going to go over this just yet. You'll have to see what that's about. And then each checkbox view itself is implemented here. So as you can see already, there's not a whole lot of code. That's the entire UI. Now, I do want to say that to build the checkbox itself, it's an HStack with this image, depending on the check mark, if it's a box with a check inside or an empty box, and a text label. And I had to do this manually because there is no native SwiftUI component for a checkbox. So which brings me up to, I want to give a shout out to Steve Lipton. He is author of several SwiftUI courses on LinkedIn Learning. I've taken, I think, pretty much all of them, and he also has a blog post. So that's where I stole the code to implement SwiftUI checkbox. So I just want to give him a quick shout out. Now, how this works is when you tap into the checkbox, that calls this toggle function, which, as its name implies, it will toggle the state of this is checked variable. And we're going to ignore this for now for the bonus. And then that calls the check filter function. And we will go over that next. Oh, actually, I still want, there we go. Okay, let's keep that up for a little bit. Okay, so then we call the check filter function, and then that checks to see if the checkbox was checked. That will add the filter to this non-filter selected, filters selected set. And what that does is it's a set that keeps track of the filters that we checked. And the reason why I made it a set is because the nice thing about sets is that all the elements have to be unique, unlike an array where you can potentially have duplicates. So in an array, you could like have 2 chocolate filters, for example. So you don't want that. So that's why I picked a set to do this. So as you check or uncheck a filter, that will add or remove that filter in our filter set. And then we call set filtered list. And what this says is if our filter set is empty, meaning we didn't select any of the filters, then return to us all the ice cream flavors. And that is defined over here. And then if you continue, I'm going to skip over this for now until the bonus. But let's say you selected a filter like the chocolate filter. Then what this will do is it will take that set and use this Swift functional method filter, and then return to us all the flavors that have chocolate in its tags. So which is like this one, this one, this one, for example. And the reason why I point out this filtered list result is because that is what gets updated, and it is a published variable, which means if we go back to our content view, our list view is listening for changes to filtered list results and then automatically updating itself whenever that list changes. All right, so I hope that's clear. If not, I will answer questions about that near the end, but let's go ahead and continue. So this is what I went over. Again, the UI was pretty simple. Had the content view, then we drilled down the filter view and the checkbox view. And I discussed how the filtering works. And again, when the filtered list results gets updated, that updates our UI. And now, since you stayed until this long, we'll go over the bonus demo. And this is going to require a little bit of very minor live coding, but it is nonetheless. So I think this is the first time I've done live coding in the conference. So this is a very special moment for me, and I hope for all of you. All right, so the big reveal is none of the above filter, okay? So let me show you again the usual filter stuff. But then if you tap on none of the above, that displays all the ice cream flavors that do not contain fruit, chocolate, or coffee. And then it also unchecks those filters and grays them out. So how does that work? Well, let's go back to our checkbox view. Let's see. Okay. So once again, we start with the toggle filter. And here we check to see if the none filter was selected. And if so, what happens is that updates our published none filter selected. And this is important because then later on, when each of the individual checkboxes is going to check to see if the none filter was selected. And if it is, it's going to uncheck itself and disable itself. And that's because the checkbox view is listening for changes to the none filter selected variable. And now if we go back to the check filter method was called, and we do the same thing with updating our filter set, and we call set filter list. And so I went over what happens if the filter set is empty. But the one thing that's different is now if our filter set contains that none filter, then we want to return all the ice cream flavors whose tags are empty. And they would be vanilla and salted caramel. You see their tags are empty, which is what you see here. All right. So we went over that bonus demo. So let me go over once again the key highlights in the SwiftUI solution. As you can see, there was a lot less code to build the UI compared to, say, doing the same thing in UIKit. And I made use of a set instead of an array to build the filter list because you can't have duplicate filters in a set. So I took advantage of that, and hope you saw that I used the Swift functional method filter to make the actual filtering easy with the set. Other key highlights, you notice that when the filtered list results got updated, the list view was listening for changes to that, and it was updating itself automatically. So there wasn't a class that was messaging the list view to update itself. You know, we weren't dealing with delegates or completion handlers to do this. And then with the none filter selected also being a published variable, is that the other filter checkboxes were listening for changes to the none filter and updating themselves without any classes having to message the checkboxes directly that the none filter was selected. And like I said before, no completion handlers or delegates were needed. So SwiftUI for the win. Yes, I do use a lot of emojis in my slides. And here's some resources. I will put these slides up later in the Slack channel. And I'll also post the links to my GitHub project and that checkbox code if you want to see that. And what questions do people have? I'll go ahead and stop sharing, and yeah, if anyone has any comments or questions. Or was that just so super clear that, which is fine, I guess. No questions is good, right? That means everyone followed it, I hope. Okay. I'm glad you liked my ice cream demo. Yes, yes, SwiftUI makes code a lot simpler to write for sure. I wrote this project and I'm still amazed, like, oh, that's it? Like, I wonder if I should just add some more code just to make it more interesting, but it's totally not necessary. Yeah, if there's any more questions, feel free to post them in the Slack channel. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to my talk. And yeah, I'll go ahead and post links to my project in the Slack channel, and I'll put my slides up and post a link to my slides later as well. So, all right, thanks, everyone.